fascinating. I want to get into the American development model, but maybe as a launching point, when you go to a rink today and watch practice, what are you looking for?
It depends on the level. I think overall, I look at is what the coach doing age appropriate, right? I've learned from a lot of my great colleagues here, Kenny Martell, Roger Grillo, Scott Pollock, Joe Biden, so many of them, to go into a rink and take a step back and try to learn what it is the coach wants. Because, too often as coaches, we go into a rink and we're quick to praise or condemn. And, because it's not what we're doing. And really the first question we need to ask is, what does the coach want from this drill? What does the coach want from this practice? Right? Because you walk into a rink and you see a drill or a practice and you're like, oh, I wouldn't do this. Well, no, what we should be saying is, okay, well, why are they doing this? Does it make sense to that coach, that team, that age group, right? So you look at all that, but the real thing is it age appropriate? And if it is age appropriate, are the coaches putting the kids in position to become better players? Are they put in position to make decisions, to be aware, right? I mean, you want all the simple stuff, and I say simple, not easy. You want the battles, the compete, the gaining body position, all of that. You want that in practice, but really we want to see if our coaches are putting our kids in position to make decisions and get better, right? Let's not create robots. Let's not even create a robotical way of thinking, but let's create smart hockey players who are able to make decisions in the moment. I was sitting with Shelley Looney, who was the head coach of the women's team at Lindenwood just recently. And of course, she won the first ever gold medal in women's Olympics. I believe she scored the winning goal, and a great hockey mind to herself. And she was telling me a phrase that she loved, and I'm going to steal it for sure. And I can't believe it's only been 4 days and already I'm stealing her phrase. I'll give her credit. And she said, does the player know what to do when hockey breaks out? And I thought, what a great question, right?
Yeah.
Forget about, can he do the practice drill? Can he, does he know the breakout? What, all of that. Does he, what does he do when hockey breaks out? And that's what we look for from our coaches and players. Yeah. The question is, who is practice for?
Yeah.
Right? Is the practice for you as the coach? Is the practice for the parent in the stand? Or are you creating a practice that's for the player? And, too often we do drills and we have practices so we can leave the rink feeling good, but it does nothing for the development of the player, right? I always say that, we should be, as coaches, we should be exhausted at the end, mentally exhausted, not physically, mentally exhausted, because we have to constantly be putting our kids in the right situations for them to get better. And we have to ask them the right questions about what they're doing and what we're seeing for them to process. We want to help them process, help them work through these equations to get to the answer that makes sense for them. Not the answer that makes us feel good, right? Stand here on the breakout, go D to D, support this way, right? It's the whole thing about you leave practice and you say, wow, practice was great. Do I ever feel good? The drills were good. Everybody knew where their lines were. The pucks were in the right place. And they went through these drills that they've done 1,000,000 times because I have hammered into them how to do the drills. And man, do I feel good. The good coaches realize those players learned very little that practice.
Yeah.
Right? Where was the decisions, right? So sometimes the most chaotic practices, not sometimes, most of the time, the most chaotic practices, the practices that are ugly, right? The practices where the players are engaged in what's happening. Those are the ones that tax our coaches. Those are the ones that challenge, the mental stability, if you will, of our coaches, right? Because you got to be in the moment. you have to be there and present and watching and helping the players and changing the constraints of a drill or changing the direction of the practice to make sure you're challenging the players to get to the next step and the next level constantly, as opposed to, all right, we're going to dump it in and we're going to go D to D to wing. Let's chip it off to the center. When you get to the blue line, let's dump it in and then we'll break out the other end. Okay, fine. At the end, NHL level, you have a maintenance day. You might be running through that. All your players tired from being on the road. You got 4 games in the next 7 days. Hey, I'm good. That makes sense. You have a reason to do that. But at the youth level, is that really what we want from our coaches? And is that really what we want from our practices?
We'll